Welcome, guys. We are the Cult of Whiskey. This is Daniel. I'm Al.
Hiya.
All hail cow. And today we are reviewing Cutty Sark. I always want to say Stark. Cutty Sark Prohibition edition. All right. Let's take a look. Daniel, you're a reader by trade, so I'm going to go ahead and let you read the bottle in your most eloquent whiskey voice.
Well, hand me the bottle then.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's start off. This is Cutty Sark Prohibition Edition, blended Scotch whiskey, handcrafted from grain and malt whiskeys, matured in American oak and bottled at 100 proof.
I feel like you can go a little bit more eloquent. Now, I want to really feel the Scottish Highlander.
Okay, all right. Full-flavored and challenging massive notes of cracked black pepper and toffee, with hints of vanilla, allow you to drink this full-strength whiskey straight, as the free-spirited would have done in the 1920s. Or add a shot of water to tame its rich, rugged, and authentic full flavor. Either way, has a superior smooth finish, thanks to being non-chill filtered and aged in hand-selected American oak casks. Cutty Sark Prohibition Edition has been crafted as a salute to the notorious Captain William S. McCoy, who smuggled Cutty Sark blended Scotch whiskey into America during the Prohibition era of the 1920s. His impeccable reputation for only dealing in the finest, genuine, and unadulterated liquor gave rise to the Cutty Sark being referred to as the real McCoy.
Real McCoy.
The real McCoy.
That was
Not
good.
the fake McCoy.
Yeah, that was very good, Daniel, except you were a bit more Irish than Scottish.
I know. I can't help it. It's the way I am.
Yeah, with the red beard.
Yeah. This is my problem. This is my problem.
Definitely a little bit more Irish.
That's all right. I'll work on it for next time.
So before you even start nosing, let's talk a little about Cutty Sark.
Okay.
Right. So it is a budget blend, right? So it's $25 to $35 on average. If you can find it. I'm in LA and I had to order this off of Flaviar to get it, and that was like $35 or around $35. But if you're a member, then you get the shipping for free. It wasn't too big of a deal. When I do see it,
non-sponsored ad, by the way.
Non-sponsored ad. Right. When I have seen it in stores, it's like $25, and it's 100 proof. Right. So this is 50% ABV. That's a pretty amazing bottle for a budget to be at 50 proof is not common, especially for a budget blended Scotch. Okay, so
not for a Scotch, maybe a bourbon.
Yeah, for a bourbon, you can get 100 proof all day long for a bourbon, right? But
which is why I like bourbon.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel is a bourbon man. Okay, so
most of the time.
So I tend to stay more towards Islay or and anywhere in Scotland, right? And Daniel loves his bourbons, and he drinks
sour mash.
Yeah, and he drinks it by the gallon. Okay.
Certainly have.
All right, so this is made from grain and malt. It's sourced from multiple distilleries. I believe it's bottled. It's bottled in Glasgow, and majority comes from the Glen Roth's distillery. But they've gotten bought out so many times in the last decade that I'm not quite sure where all the majority of it's coming from.
And it might get sold again.
Yeah, exactly.
So no rush to figure it out.
Yeah. So in the last 10 years, and Cutty Sark has been with one place for the last 10 years. It was Bros Rudd and Barry Bros and Rudd. And then it was bought by Eddington, and then from Eddington it was bought by a French spirits company, and it is the second largest French spirits company in France, and their name is very Frenchy. I want to say it's like La Marquise or something. It is so Frenchy, I'm not even going to attempt to try and say the name, but it starts with an M. And so Barry Bros and Rudd was the first wine merchant in in the UK, or the oldest running wine and spirits merchants in the UK. They supply all the wine for the royal family. They are, as rich of a heritage for London as it comes for private wine spirits companies. And they owned it up until about 10 years ago. Then they got bought up by Eddington, which is they own Highland Park. They own Glenrothes, Macallan, Famous Grouse, and then finally to that French company that starts with an M. It's La Marque.
La Marco?
No, it's
that's
you
Italian.
you want to read it?
I can give it a shot. Let's see.
It's that name right there.
Martine Croix? Martine Croix.
Yeah. I've
Martine Croix?
Yeah. I'm
Ecosse?
gonna say
Martine
Marquis
Croix?
because that's the.
Let me try it with an American pronunciation. This is the best thing to do with
Yeah.
French is to read it like it's English.
Yeah.
So it'd be Martine Croissy.
Yeah.
Sound it out phonetically.
Yeah. So, I'm not gonna attempt it. Like I said, they're the second largest French spirits company, and the name Cutty Sark comes from an actual merchant ship. Okay, it was the fastest ship of its time, and this was in the late.
It had to have been for bootlegging.
Yeah, it was actually. So the name Cutty Sark comes from an actual ship. So the bootlegging is separate. Cutty Sark, it was from the 1860s, 1869. Okay, and it was just the fastest. That's their picture of their that ship on their label. Okay, and it made runs from Australia for wool and a few years during the tea trade. Okay, and that's where the name comes from. But this is their Prohibition bottle. Okay, so let's.
And I'm already seeing, I see bits in here. That's because it's not been cold filtered.
Yeah, so it's not going to be chill filtered because it's at 50% ABV.
Right.
The only reason you chill filter it is if you're below about 46% ABV. Okay, so when you drop below 46%, when you add ice to it, it's going to turn cloudy. When you're above 46%, on average, this is just a general rule of thumb. When you're not going to see that cloudiness when it's that high of ABV. So there's no need to chill filter. And there's Cutty Sark has always been known as a light whiskey. So just as a brand issue, they don't really add E150 because they don't need to because it's part of their brand identity. Okay, there are like the 15 and 18-year-old bottles that are really dark and I'm pretty sure add E150 to it, but those are much older, and
could be one can.
Yeah,
well.
because they've gotten bought out so many times, I'm not quite sure, where that 18 came from. That's irrelevant. This bottle itself, I'm almost positive, does not have E150 in it. At least I couldn't find any research that showed that they used it. And on the nose, we're getting citrus, right?
Yeah, I definitely smell the pepper.
Mm-hmm. A little fudge and orange, a little bit of custard.
Yeah.
And it's not overly powerful. Like when you get like cask strength, you usually get like a really high alcohol note, and I'm not getting that like huge alcohol like like the spikiness.
No, and even on the palate, for what is 100 proof, it's remarkably smooth. Very dessert. A little bit of dessert.
Yeah.
I definitely taste the orange, the custard, black pepper.
Now, I've seen a lot of different reviews about this whiskey, and I love this whiskey. Okay, for the price,
very drinkable.
For the price, it's hard to find a budget Scottish whiskey at 50% ABV that has this much flavor and complexity. Listen, you can, I've got $200-$300 bottles on my top shelf, and obviously there are cask strength whiskeys that are much more complex than this. But this at $25, $35.
This is a steal. At $25.
I've given these bottles away. If you're going to go to a party, $25. I mean, that's an easy. I'm going to grab a bottle, and everyone's going that likes whiskey is going to like this, and I'm gonna show that I know what I'm doing, right? When you bring a shitty bottle of whiskey, people,
They know.
they'll judge you on it, right?
Especially us. We will definitely judge.
Yeah. This guy, I could bring him over a bottle of the cheapest whiskey on the planet, and he'll be happy that somebody else paid for it.
That's also true. That's also true.
They say 50% of whiskey is what you're drinking, 40% is who you're drinking it with, and the other 10% is who paid for it.
And I would actually switch all of those percentages around.
Yeah,
be about 50% who paid for it, 40%. Yeah, we moving down the list there. This is very good. I'm going to try it with a little bit of water.
Mm-hmm.
Just a touch.
I'm getting a little bit of like crushed nuts on the palate, and toffee.
Tons of toffee.
Yeah. Like dark chocolates.
Oh, yeah. Just a touch of water. Now it tastes really like a dessert.
Yeah. Finishes just, it's quick, but it's
full flavor.
Yeah, it's definitely powerful. It's not illegal, and it's not very oily whiskey, but it's there, and it doesn't just go away.
This would be great with some cheesecake.
Yeah. Let me try a little water in it.
Or like fruit crepes.
Yeah.
Something like that. A light dessert. Or after a nice big steak dinner. It'd be also nice. You wouldn't need your dessert. You just have this. See, a little touch of water is perfect.
Oh yeah. Now all that spiky notes go away, but you still get that flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not watered down. Okay. And it hasn't been like, proofed down to the indistinguishable. It's still there. And if you're just getting a little too much out of that 50%, just add a few drops of water.
Yeah.
And it's all day long.
Yeah. And really nice, beautiful legs on it too in the glass.
Yeah.
Really nice.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm just coating the entire glass. If you're ever wondering why I'm sitting here, putting the Glencairn on its side and rotating like this, I'm just trying to get it all the way coated to really bring out all those fumes.
Yeah, that's very drinkable.
Yeah. Let's see.
This is I could drink this all afternoon. Something that's a little stronger with more peat. I would have trouble sitting there and drinking for like an afternoon with the guys. I wouldn't be able to eat anything else. I'd be tasting, the whiskey, and then. But with this, it's a little more balanced for my taste.
Yeah. So it's Prohibition. So my Prohibition story, right? It's the story of how Irish whiskey, and I've seen this plenty of times before when talking about Irish whiskey. Irish whiskey became unpopular for a lot of reasons. Well, not unpopular, just became in the whiskey industry died off essentially for a lot of reasons. But one of the most popular reasons is Prohibition. Okay, so I love this story because it's an American background history. All right, so Prohibition happens during the 1920s, and our favorite person, Al Capone. I'm not saying that I love Al Capone. I'm just saying that he's
named after you.
He's got a strong name. Okay, he's got a strong name, and I like that kind of person.
Yeah, it's too bad they stole it from you.
Exactly, precisely. Yeah. So Al Capone, a bunch of gangsters, they go to Ireland, right? Essentially, and they they go to the local distilleries there, and they say, well, my friend Al, he's not a bad man. And if you were to take barrels and bottles of whiskey and ship it to Canada, no questions asked. If they end up in America, they end up in America. It's not a big deal. But it has nothing to do with you. You won't be in trouble for it, right? All we need is your barrels to end up in Canada, and we take care of the rest. We are American, but you're not doing anything wrong. It's not a big deal. And the Irish basically run them out of Ireland and say, go pound sand. We're not those kind of people, right? The law is the law, and we don't break the law. And then they go to Scotland, and they say the same thing to the Scottish. If it makes it to Canada, and, it's not a big deal. Who's to say what happens to it after it lands in North America? And the Scottish say, how many do you want? And that's exactly what happened. That is essentially one of the big reasons that Scotch, and became very popular, because during Prohibition, the only real, not bathtub, backwaters made moonshine, the only real whiskey that you could get your hands on that was actually made from real distillers came from Scotland. Okay, so that's what people got used to during the turn of the century, essentially, in America, and that had a really big presence with Americans, and it still does to this day, right? So Americans still love their single malt Scotch whiskey.
It was also the death of the American rye.
Yeah,
was that his exact purpose, because they weren't using rye anywhere else, because that's an American product.
Well, luckily, rye's come back because of hipsters like you.
I love mine. So love me some rye.
And it's hard to say that we're not hipsters. I mean, look at us.
I know you are, but what am I?
Just like a hipster.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good. Anything else you want to add about this?
No. What's our toast?
Our toast today is, may the wind always be at your back, and especially when you're coming home.
L'chaim.